Now we are live. And there's Jeff. Mr. Jeff Gamet.
Mr. Dave Ginsburg.
Is that the Jeff Gamet?
It is. The one and only.
The one, the only. Why, when I just opened the show notes, does the file say, this file is currently in spam?
I got that too.
Oh, that's what happened.
Really?
Well, I sent it to you, Chuck, through the Docs app and on the iPhone. The other, both of them, I sent it from just the web.
Are you both using Apple Mail or Gmail or?
No.
I had all sorts of trouble. Dave was sending it to me and it was not appearing in my email. So while I was sitting in a boring faculty meeting, he kindly tried a couple of times. It still wasn't showing up. And then he sent it to me through messages, the links through messages, and that's what I used to set it up.
Yeah. Same.
And I put it in Workana and opened it up. And when I opened it up, it said, this is spam. You could change it to not spam. And I did that, and that cleaned it up.
I need a little more gain from you, Jeff. You're a little low.
How about if I move the mic where it's supposed to be? Still need more gain?
Just a smidge.
Smidge. I haven't heard that term in a long time.
How about now? Is that better?
That's good enough.
I can give you more if you want.
I think we're good.
All right.
That's what she said.
I wish I had a nickel every time I heard that.
That's right.
I have to send you so many nickels.
All right, I'm ready. Let's do it. One more double check. We are good. In 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome to episode 342 of ITWIOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, Vision Pro, and related technologies. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and Chuck Joyner is back on the show. How you doing, Chuck?
I'm great, Dave. I'm great. Although I saw that you posted, I believe it was to Threads, that, regular contributors, the other two gentlemen that are here, does that make me an irregular contributor?
Yeah, no, it could.
Okay.
But if you keep coming more often, I might have to move. I might have to promote you here. So
well, I'll try to be as irregular as possible just to live up to the billing.
All right, wait. Good work.
There's a syrup you can take if you're a regular. That'll straighten that out.
Oh yeah. And that is Marty Gensius.
I'm sorry, Dave. I didn't mean for it to go that direction.
Oh, I know. How you doing, Marty?
I'm doing okay. An hour before this class, I'm teaching family therapy to 28 students. So that should scare the heck out of your listeners that I'm teaching family therapy. But I like it because it's the kind of end of my work week, and I get to come home and then spend time and not think of anything that's past me.
That's right. And last but certainly not least, Jeff Gammon is here. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing all right. And I think Marty gives Chuck really good advice. Maybe you should send him Marty, send Chuck a link to that product that he can use, to help with his irregularity.
Yeah. So we've got great things to talk about this week. Vision Pro, what's going on in beta world. It's one week before the release candidate to be the final product. Got some good news stories, but so let's just jump right in here and in touch with Vision Pro. It's been 1 year. Can you believe it? Since the pre-order of the
and
Apple
Chuck
Vision
still
Pro.
Doesn't have one.
Chuck still doesn't have one. Jeff still doesn't have one. But January 19th, 2024 is when the Vision Pro went on pre-order, and then it shipped on February 2nd. I thought interesting to chat a little bit about what we've seen over this past year. Marty, you pre-ordered it, right? If I recall.
I pre-ordered it, and I was so worried because I had saved up to get the thing for, since they announced it, that I was not going to get it on release day. And so I pre-ordered it, and sure enough, I got a release day order, and then realized that I had my glasses on when I scanned for the light shield.
So they had to
And
rescan you.
so I'm like, oh no, I didn't have to rescan. I mean, I had already put the order in. So it's like, what am I going to do? So maybe I should just reorder. I couldn't change the order. So I went in and ordered a second one, but this time without it, decreased the amount of storage that I had. And sure enough, when I pressed the button, I still got it on release date. So
I don't think that's a problem getting
it wasn't it wasn't the struggle that we feel with other products.
Like the iPhone specifically.
Yeah.
So it was a big fanfare. We found out about it in 2023 during WWDC and got to see that. And that was a long period between WW in 23 and all the way up to pre-orders in 24. So, but it finally came out in February of February 2nd, 2024. And where are we at so far with this product? I think the biggest thing everybody's been talking about, and they didn't even have it because it was Vision OS 1.0, was the Mac Virtual Display. I think everybody just raves about how amazing that is, and to have a massive screen on your face and being able to do that. What are some of the things that you think have been revolutionary with it, Marty, that you've liked so far?
I was still enjoying the product when it was on the 1.0 version of the software, and people were screaming, "When are we going to get this, Mac Virtual Display?" I'm like, it's still a good product without it. And when it finally came, it was like a gift to a lot of folks that they had been waiting for and really waiting for, and it worked really well for folks. And so then that kind of raised the hype on the product. But the simple hand gesture, because remember there was a time with 1.0 that we had to press all the buttons to make things go. And now they've only utilized one. You think there's a possibility for more hand gestures to work on the product and do things with the product, but the simple, putting your fingers together and then turning it over and getting into your system set up for it, that I think was next to the Mac Virtual Display. I think that was another important touch point.
Agree. Jeff, what was your first impressions when they announced it, Dub, and when it led up to when it went on from pre-order?
Well, I thought that if any company could take the whole concept of an AR face mask device and turn it into something that was actually useful for the general public, it would be Apple. And to me, what was revolutionary about this product was that Apple presented it as a standalone computer. So I'm curious, Dave and Marty, since both of you have a Vision Pro, do you feel like it's a standalone computer, or is this really an accessory for your Mac?
I'll start. I've had a lot less time than Marty has. He's had it since day one. So I don't think it's there yet to be a standalone product per se. I mean, yeah, the Mac part of it is good. I guess it could be a standalone product. The video is getting more and more enticing to want to watch movies, especially we talked about last week with the new theater app, then being able to watch your movies from your Plex server and putting it in theater mode. That's the biggest thing. You haven't seen any great apps that put these movies in theater mode, and that's what a lot of people want to be able to do with this Vision Pro. Besides gaming is the other place we can talk about in a minute here, but yeah, I think it still has a bit of ways to go. I think the developers have to want to get enticed to want to start developing
Mhm.
for it, and that's the problem, because there aren't a lot. I mean, we don't know how many they sold. They say 500,000 units. You don't know, but that doesn't have. It has to be worth the developer's while to want to be able to do it. So, what do you think? What about you, Marty? You go ahead and answer that for Jeff.
I would argue it's a standalone computer, only because I think it differentiates it from any other virtual headset display. You can do productivity work with it independent of your Mac laptop or whatever your virtual display that you're going to use. I rarely turn on my virtual display, whereas David probably does it much more. That's probably a go-to when it comes to productivity. And Eric does it for all of his productivity. He uses Mac Virtual Display. I do my work with it independent of another paired computer or display. So my work is probably more limited than what Eric and what David does, but that's how I use the product. And it's a kick-ass entertainment device.
Agreed.
It is top notch with that. So, but it is a standalone computer, and other virtual display or other headsets can't say that.
Yeah. Well, you, Chuck, what was your first impression when it got announced, and I know we tease you, you're trying to get you to buy one, but I mean, you had you had some thoughts about where it came from at WWDC up to now, and a year later, and then now.
Well, sure. I think it's kind of a natural extension of where things are going when it comes to AR and VR. It's a great first effort. I don't want to turn into too much of an Apple fanboy here, but I will to some
Oh, we are.
degree. Because and this is from someone who doesn't own one yet. Because the pros in my mind, now look, anybody can make a demo look good. And if you haven't been out and done the Apple Vision Pro demo, you really should, because it is good beyond any expectations I had, and I had reasonably high expectations. So that there's that part of it, and I feel like it's just a matter of time before this gets better. On the downside, the reason I haven't purchased one is that I am looking for something that it does better than anything I have right now. The Mac screen mirroring is probably is one of the first real steps toward me getting one. The gaming part, not interested. Some of the virtual socialization aspects I really find intriguing. At the moment, because of the rest of my life, I really don't have time to play with those things. So there are a couple things that are tugging at me, and they will get there. But I just feel like that the expectations are so high when Apple brings anything out that if it isn't an immediate smash hit, everybody says, "Oh, it's a failure." And I think this one's in a class by itself. It needs to find its audience, and it needs to find its place. And the thing you got to remember about it, and please, Dave or Marty, correct me, but Apple seems to be pushing this primarily as a productivity device, maybe secondarily as a media consumption device. And then everything else falls off the cliff after that. So I think the more it can focus on those things, and the more developers figure out what they can do with it, the better it's going to get, and start to live up to some of the expectations.
If you follow some of the subreddits, it's kind of, because I follow them because of the show, but you see these posts of people who are just excited about it and still excited about it. And I've got my first one. This is amazing. Or I did this with it. This is amazing. Or have you seen this new app, or this app that's been around theater is now doing this? The pulse on it is still very strong. There's occasionally people coming in and griping about the price or griping about that, but generally people are posting positive things about their experience with it, or trying to solve problems, trying to do something different and getting advice from folks in the subreddit.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I mean, I guess the bottom line is it really a mainstream device yet? I probably would say probably not. it didn't become mainstream. It's a niche product right now. There's a lot of people who are loving it, like you said, all those people that were there. But I think as Apple continues to explore different computing devices and looks towards the future, it definitely is the future. I think it's something that we're really looking at into the future, which leads me into the next a piece on Vision Pro. Samsung. Samsung introduced this VR headset, and boy, oh boy, does it look an awful lot like a Vision Pro, does it not, guys?
And a Meta
Oh,
3.
holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
does.
it's their upcoming Project Muhan, and it's an AR VR headset which is designed to compete with the Vision Pro. Some users might even mistake it as a headset as the Vision Pro with its similar design characteristics. I'm looking at the pictures here on the Mac Rumors article here, and it's just unbelievable how close this is, and you know, as always, Samsung trying to compete and thinking that this is going to be something that's going to be that they're going to sell real well. And I don't know, because Apple was already struggling with it, and they didn't announce what the price is going to be on it. It's going to be an Android based, of course, Android XR, and they say it's supposed to launch later this year in 2025. So what do you think? Do you think this is going to be a viable competitor to Vision Pro? Because the Metas, you can't really compare them, because Vision Pro is just so much more advanced, right? What do you think, Chuck?
Well, Dave, you said something there that I want to make sure we touch on. That the Apple Vision Pro is not a mainstream device. None of the headsets are a mainstream device.
No, they're not.
You know, I mean, now if you are a gamer, there's a lot better chance that it's closer to the mainstream. But if you're a gamer, I'm not sure you're exactly mainstream either. So, you know, I think it'll live up to its potential. I think it's just going to take time. And again, I mean, like some of the other revolutionary devices that have come out of Apple and others, it takes the developers a little time to figure out what they can do, and it takes users a little bit of time to figure out what they can do with it that benefits them. So we're in that instant gratification society right now, that if it doesn't gratify you right now, then it's not worth looking at. That's just not true.
Yeah. How about you, Marty?
I read somewhere someone did the pricing on it, or the anticipated pricing, and surprise, it's not too far from Apple Vision Pro's price point.
Okay. I didn't see it.
So and there is someone, and I haven't read the article yet, who supposedly spent some time with it and had an opportunity to had an opportunity to go a little deeper in it. And I'm curious about reading that review on it. Doesn't surprise me. I have to say, there's nothing about it. You know, I would be tempted with these kind of things, particularly doing a podcast on, I got to get one of those to make the comparison. But then what I've got is another dead end Android product, because I'm not in the Android ecosystem. So, I played around with a few of their phones and then sold them back after I was done with them. So, this'll fit their niche for folks who have a hefty wallet full of money and are tied into the Android ecosystem.
Yeah. And you, Jeff?
A lot of the discussions we're seeing about these products right now sound an awful lot like what we heard 1 year into the Apple Watch launch. And I expect over time that will continue to track as Apple Vision Pro does become more mainstream, and as Apple and users figure out how this computer is really going to fit into the whole ecosystem. So now when you look at what Samsung is doing, this is a common strategy for a lot of companies, and Samsung fits into this group too, where they look at something Apple is doing and then they mimic it in some form. So giving users a device that looks very much like Apple Vision Pro, but runs Android OS, no surprise that this is happening. Will it be a better experience than Apple Vision Pro? For some people, maybe, but overall, I'm assuming that the answer is no, because we're running Android with some sort of bolt-on or skin or something that that makes it more useful as a face-worn device. So, eh, it's this will probably perform like a lot of Samsung reaction products, where they sell some, and then it morphs into something else, or it just kind of fades away.
Hmm. Their products tend to fade away pretty quick. A
Yeah,
lot of times.
I mean their strategy works, which is throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. And they're a big enough company they can get away with doing that. But a lot of other companies they can't do what Samsung does.
Yeah. One last thing about the Vision Pro. Vision OS 2.3 is out. There's nothing really to talk about. It just bugs and fixes, so I won't spend much time on that. It's release candidate, so basically it's probably the final version, barring any bug fixes. But MoviePass also came out with a film trailer app for the Vision Pro, as well as the Oculus Quest. And I had not tried it just yet, but looks like it's going to be another cool thing, because the old Apple TV app that was the movie trailers app that is no longer available. This gives you another option now to be able to watch trailers and be able to get the nice sneak peek of movies. The one thing I guess is drawback to it that I read is the fact that it isn't in theater mode. I don't know if you've tried it, Marty, on this with this app yet, but
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet.
yeah. So that was one of the things that did stand out. And well, yeah, this is a great app, but it's not theater mode. I want to feel like I'm in a theater, just
Yeah.
like we watch all the other movies. So that's, again, I go back to the theater app that we talked about last week, and the Plex server. Some of the Plex movies I have in my library are not going to be 4K, but it was a pretty impressive experience, feeling like I'm in the theater. It's dark everywhere, and you just got the movie to watch, and it really works really well. So that's Vision Pro for this week. Beta, we talk about all kinds of the versions coming out. It looks like this coming Monday or Tuesday is probably when the 18.3 is going to be out for iOS and iPadOS. And additionally, there's going to be some more Apple Intelligent updates for Siri later this year in 18.4. So that has come out. I don't know. Have you noticed anything, Marty, on your phone with the update since?
No. I'm still amazed by, and there's a lot of critique about notification summaries. I'm still
Yeah.
amazed by notification summaries because they come up and I can go, okay, that's the conversation I'm going to have to deal with swipe later. But
Yeah.
I get the whole conversation. I'm not getting it one at a time. I like that feature. A lot of people complain about it. People complain, well, it's not really accurate. The chat stuff I'm getting from my friends doesn't have to be accurate. Just lets me
Yeah.
know who's knocking on my door.
Yeah, pretty much. And other things that to look out for is there is the one thing that did stand out is they're actually going to have Apple Intelligence on by default when you update to 18.3, which I thought was kind of a bugger, because you want to be able to be asked first before it enables. That's one thing that it may do. One thing that they may temporarily are going to be doing is it's going to be, like we talked about, the notification summaries and going through and disabling all those. There is a disabled feature for that. So again, we'll see when the final version comes out here. One thing I found here too is potentially 2 Apple Intelligence features will work on the Apple Watch, which we just talked about, notification summaries and reduced interruptions in focus mode. What that is it's going to allow you to, at first arrived in 18.1 on iOS, and when you do the reduce interruptions is active, intelligently allow important notifications to interrupt you, and silence notifications determined not to be important. So you'll have a little bit of an extension on the Apple Watch, but nothing true to Apple Intelligence just yet on the Apple Watch beyond that. So it's definitely going to be an interesting thing to see what goes on with this. So And also going to go on, and we'll go ahead and talk about In Touch with Mac. And let's talk a little bit about Sequoia. 15.3 was just released to developers, and again, nothing big. I don't think. Did you notice anything, Marty? I didn't really with the Mac.
No,
OS.
no, I'm showing some exhaustion because
Yeah.
those full window snaps still bother me. You
Oh,
know,
tell me about it.
and it's like, okay, fine. I didn't want that, but you gave it to me, and I'm sure
Yeah.
there's a way to shut it off.
There
Yeah.
it is.
So, yeah, I think you could. Yeah, we should probably put that. If you find that, Jeff, but need a link in the show notes about that because that drives me crazy too. But a couple anniversaries of note I want to be kind of fun to talk about is the Mac Mini has turned 20 years old as of yesterday, as we record here. It's a trend of a small but powerful computer. When the Mac Mini was originally designed as a gateway to users to enter the Apple ecosystem with the expense associated with the higher end offerings of the time. So it was introduced at Mac Expo in 2005. I'm sure if you guys who were there probably remember that being introduced. That was a low end processor, but it was the original Mac Mini was a PowerPC G4, and it was a 1.25 gigahertz and a 1.42, and had the ATI Radeon graphics card, and you had RAM that could be expandable up to a big whopping 1 gigabyte and a 40 gigabyte or 80 gigabyte of hard drive. Compare that to today's Mac Mini M4. Wow, it's going to be something crazy. So, Chuck, you've never bought a Mac Mini, have you?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you
I've
did?
had a
Okay.
couple. I've had a couple Mac Minis. I mean, they've never been my daily driver, but
Yeah.
yes, I've loved them. Now I've not taken advantage of any of the M series Mac Minis.
Right.
The minis I had were pre the M series, but yeah, it's a. I mean, in some ways, it's a great little machine that I wanted just to have it, and I used it for Plex servers and a variety of different things. And it's a phenomenal little machine
It is.
for
Weren't they pretty sizable? I mean, I remember
they
the original
first one.
Apple TV and then the original Mac Mini. From what I can remember, it's like, now is that an Apple TV or is that a Mac Mini? Because they were about the same form factor at that time.
Yeah, the Apple TV was probably put two on top of each other. Was the size of the Mac Mini.
But keep in mind the time when it came out. That think about what the desktop machines look like. Even the iMacs, were super. I mean, they chewed up a lot of desk space compared to that. So it truly was mini for the time, and then it got minier.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, it was all Intel-based processors. After the first one, the PowerPC, then you had the Intel one, and then you had all that, and then the Silicon came out in 2020, and then here we are today with the M4, which I absolutely love. And I'm sure you do, Marty, too. These new Mac Minis are by far the best they've ever come out with. So, happy birthday, 20 years of the Mac Mini. Also, an anniversary, 41 years ago, the famous 1984 commercial that aired during the Super Bowl was a year 41 years ago yesterday. That iconic commercial with the that was directed by Ridley Scott and highlighted the Macintosh as a groundbreaking computer that offers freedom and individually, and doing from the George Orwell's dystopian novel 1984. And I remember that commercial vividly, and that was a fun thing that they did with the Macintosh and when the Mac came out. So what are you guys' thoughts on that video? I still like to watch it from time to time. It's pretty incredible.
That's got to make Chuck feel old.
Thank you, Jeff.
I love you, Chuck.
I can tell. Yeah. I mean, in a way, it's 40 years. That just doesn't seem possible.
I know it doesn't.
But at the same time, I was an Apple fan long before the Mac, and so this was not a surprise that it was coming out. And so you kind of were watching the game if for no other reason, just to watch that ad, and it was. I mean, you already know it. It was completely unlike anything that was running in ads at that time, and in fact, it still is groundbreaking. So, it's just 40 years. That just doesn't seem possible.
Yeah. Go Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, Chuck's comment was what I was thinking. The idea that you didn't see commercials like that at all. And you have to think of the genius of Ridley Scott, Apple's marketing, group that said, no, we really want to do something different than a standard commercial. And yeah, it was pretty powerful.
Yeah. You too, Jeff?
Chuck and Marty nailed it.
Yeah. Me too.
Apple changed the television advertising industry with one commercial.
It did. Interesting, this tidbit here, despite its eventual acclaim, the commercial faced skepticism within Apple. The board of directors expressed concern about its unconventional approach, as John Sculley was the CEO at the time, and even attempted to try to sell the purchased Super Bowl ad slots. Didn't know that. It aired only once nationally, and then the Macintosh reportedly achieved $3.5 million in sales since its launch. I don't know how much that is in 2025 dollars, but that's a lot of money. So that was a fun thing to look back to. And then lastly, I thought this is another interesting thing here. Apple introduced the laser writer. Anybody? And you guys have the laser writer? The Apple laser writer was 40 years ago.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that was the cornerstone of what was known as the desktop publishing revolution. It was the LaserWire was Apple's first laser printer and among the first of the market to incorporate Adobe's PostScript technology, and in a page description language that allowed precise and scalable rendering of text layouts and graphics. And it was powered by a Motorola 68000 microprocessor, the same that was used in the Macintosh, which is kind of crazy. You think about that. And it had a whopping resolution of 300 dots per inch. But back in those days, it was a great quality. It cost almost $7,000 for that printer, which is probably about $24,000 today in today's dollars with the laser printer.
And that was still a bargain.
Yeah, for what this thing did. Yeah.
So this goes into my old life a lot. You had the golden triangle, which was the Macintosh, PostScript on the laser writer, and Aldus PageMaker. And that completely changed the graphic design and printing and publishing industries. And while we joke about 300 DPI, that's still good enough for a lot of offset printing jobs that you would run today. I mean, so back then, that was like, holy crap, you can actually get that level of resolution on a printer. It's amazing. And this changed industries.
Yeah.
It's I don't think most people really understand how big of a deal that actually was.
No,
Hey,
they don't.
hey, Jeff, that has to make you feel really old.
Not as old as you, though.
Touche. And that was kind of the history of the Mac, and back in those days, kind of nice to reminisce on those things too. Other thing I wanted to talk about here is, I know you talked about this on Mac Voices Live, but I think this is a good way to talk about this a little more. The Grand Central Hall stunt for Severance was a genius. Its LinkedIn profile might even be better. If you go over on LinkedIn, Lumen Industries, which is the fictitious company that Severance is all those employees work for, what happened was actors Adam Scott, Britt Lower, and Zach Jerry filed into New York City's Grand Central Station and entered a giant glass cube containing 3 retro-futuristic workstations and sat down to toil away like it was any other day at the office. It was a marketing campaign. I think it was kind of genius, honestly. And they got pictures here and the links in this article in the show notes that everybody was just mesmerized watching them. And I've been to that store before. It's pretty cool. Just sitting in the middle of that station. And quite a public spectacle. And then you go to the LinkedIn site, and it looks really legitimate. It really does. And about 24,000 people are following it, so it's kind of fun to do that. But yeah, Severance it was released, and they've already. I still have not had a chance to watch season 2, episode 1, but I got to get there watching that. But all you guys like that show, right?
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm working through it slowly, and I sent this ad to my wife, and we started this story on in Mac Voices Live. I thought I had the energy up to get her to watch Severance again, and when I was at work today, this evening, I came home and she goes, I got about 20 minutes into it, and then I just had to give up.
Sounds to
So
me like it's time for a new wife.
I said, but honey,
Oh,
wow,
I said
wow.
in the second 20 minutes, that's when the housewives are there. So
Oh my God.
so I'll be
I got-
watching that by myself. Let's put it that way.
I got nothing after Jeff's comment. I got nothing.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and move on here. Apple CarPlay. They still are going to plan to support the next generation of Apple CarPlay, which they announced, 2023, 2020? Yeah, that was 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago now. And Apple does confirm that it had a delay, but they continue to work with several, quote unquote, several automakers. They updated the CarPlay website, so the one thing it doesn't say anymore is promise to arrive in 2024. Well, I hope they change that because it is now 2025. But they still are saying they are working on it's continuing to work with the next generation CarPlay, but no launch date yet. So the same marketing jargon. They're saying the next generation of CarPlay builds on years of success and insights gained from CarPlay, delivering the best of Apple and the automakers in deep integration. So they continue to work so closely with them, and nothing. In other words, it's delayed. They don't. It isn't ready yet. What do you think, Jeff?
I think the big mistake here was when Apple put 2024 on the release in the first place, because it takes a long time in the auto industry to get new things rolled out through the assembly line.
Yeah, exactly.
So 2024, I think, was very optimistic, like poorly optimistic. And well, turns out that's true. It was way too optimistic. So, excuse me. So removing that from their marketing was smart, but it shouldn't have been there to begin with.
Yeah,
This does not mean CarPlay 2 is dead or that it's floundering. All it means is that the auto industry moves at the rate that it moves at. So
right.
We'll see what happens time-wise. But I expect we'll see cars roll out at some point with CarPlay 2, and it'll be probably really cool what it does. And everyone will say, wow, Apple's really behind the curve. It took them way too long to get this out. The company is doomed.
Yeah, Apple's doomed. How about you, Chuck?
Jeff said it real well. It's the world is so complex, and some of these products are so complex that putting target dates on is just asking for trouble. I personally I want it. I want to see what they're going to do with it, but I don't want it until it's right. And so it's going to take as long as it takes to get it right. That Apple wants to get it out. It's not like somebody's saying, oh, we're just going to tease it and then, and frustrate everybody. They want to get it out. It's just a matter of making sure that it's up to their standards. Because every time that they do something that's even marginally questionable when it hits the streets, people are right down their throat. And so they need to make sure that that doesn't happen as much as possible.
Well, that and car manufacturers have to design the hardware, like the dashboard that's a full computer screen dashboard. And they're already doing things like that, but you know what they have to do here? It's going to be very specialized. So that takes time.
Sure. And the longer, to quote Steve Jobs, you have to ship, but at some point, supporting a full screen dashboard is not going to do much good if only 5% of the cars on the road have a full screen dashboard, or all the screens across the front. So they're going to have to, figure out how to make it look good on what we will eventually think of as smaller screens on our existing cars, but then also on one of those nice, big, beautiful dashboards that you see on the concept cars.
Yep. What do you think, Marty?
I think Apple's more and more about doing it right, not necessarily doing it now. And so they probably misfired with putting some dates behind it, and that was a misfire. But they'll give us their right version of it when they're ready to give us their right version of it.
Yep, for sure. All right, let's go and talk a little bit about the news this week. Plex has in November they had unveiled a redesigned iPhone app, and with some improved navigation, larger artwork, and a dedicated section for media libraries and more. The redesigned app is still in beta as of as we record this. It's also to be tested on the Apple TV. Now, Apple TV users can get, if you go into test flight from the Apple Store, and you can install the Plex beta, and they've got links on Plex's website how you want to get that and check it out. And they did share some screenshots here in this article, which is they look a lot more vividly than I've seen in the past with Plex and with movies and TV shows. The search is a little more robust, it looks like. They say it's going to be sometime available, probably in early 2025 after the beta testing, but no specific time frame just yet. You guys excited about this? Do you like this? I mean, I know most of us here have Plex servers. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. The Plex interface has felt a little dated for a while. I mean, it's functional, but it just feels dated. So, yeah, I guess I will be going through the steps to get the beta installed on my Apple TV so that I can see how it works.
Yep. How about you, Chuck?
Same thing. I'm with Jeff. The Plex server was great for when it came out. It does feel a little bit dated now with all the other interfaces we've gotten used to. So I'm kind of hoping this will put a fresh coat of paint on my Plex server from the Apple TV perspective, and make it feel a little more like it's the 21st century.
Yep. Marty?
It's a welcome change, and I don't go into Plex enough. I've tried to set it on and then turned it off and then had to reset it up again. But it does seem a little clunky in the process, a little dated with the current interface that I'm messing with. So looking at what you have in here, it feels and looks a lot more like other premier television services and how they have set up their interface. So they're kind of catching up.
Yeah. All right. Next story. Lawyer explains why Apple can't bring TikTok back to the App Store yet. As we've had all this political discussions in the last week here since the inauguration of President Trump, we've got TikTok that was deactivated for a day. It was very short-lived. It came back from and it's going to be 75 days before they work it out with how that's going to work, whether they sell it to a U.S.-based company or not. So it could go away again. We don't know, but it doesn't guarantee much, because now the TikTok App Store decision, if someone hadn't had this app prior to this happening, they aren't going to be able to get it. So you only have the current users, which are 300 million users in TikTok right now. I'm sure they have their app and they're okay and they can live with it for now, but because of its obligation to follow the laws of the jurisdictions where it operates, and that's the U.S., and that makes sense. They're just following it as they should be, and it doesn't matter. Just because it got a reprieve by that executive order, it doesn't mean that that Apple should be obligated to put the apps, and so as well as Google Play. The Google Play Store, they don't have it either. So just to be with that. So what do you think on this, Chuck?
You know what? I think it's so obvious, that I don't understand the big push. I mean, first of all, if you're a TikTok user, I would have thought that you already had it loaded on your app and you'd be or on your phone, excuse me, and be guarding it jealously. And the fact that people don't understand the potential implications of the enforcement. And yes, the president has said that he would not be enforcing it. At least that's it. That's the tone now. But we all know politicians have changed their tunes. And so, what benefit does it have for Apple or Google or anybody else to put the apps back in the store? Okay, so maybe if I suddenly get this burning interest in TikTok or any of the other ByteDance apps, I won't be able to take advantage of that for at least a little while. On the other hand, some of the companies that are supporting some of TikTok continuing in pretty much it's not quite a gray area. It may not be completely black or white, but I think it's tending toward the darker side. They're risking some massive, massive potential fines, existential fines. And so why?
Yeah, I asked that same question. How about you? What do you think, Jeff?
The law is pretty clear on what's allowed, and apps from ByteDance and other companies that are based out of China, that's not allowed.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not any White House team says we're not going to be enforcing the law, it doesn't matter. The law is very clear in this case. I think that that the companies that have the ability to allow the service to even stream into the United States, so that would be what Oracle and
Yeah, who was the other one?
sorry, I forgot. Huh?
I forgot the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the other one. Those companies flipping the switch and saying, "Oh, okay, we'll just turn it back on then." I think that was, from a legal standpoint, a really foolish move. I think they should have said, "We don't trust that that anyone saying, don't worry, it won't be enforced for now,' is going to be a valid defense in any sort of
Right.
legal case." So, yeah, Apple, Google, not allowing the apps back on their stores, smart and the right
Agreed.
thing to do. Oracle and whatever the other company is, allowing the service to start operating again, foolish. Someone's going to get burned in that along the way. And at least from a legal standpoint, it's not going to be Apple or Google.
Yep. How about you, Marty?
The drama, the drama, the drama. I feel
Yes.
so bad for ByteDance. Man, they have been treated so badly. And as far as advice from the White House, I haven't stopped drinking the bleach, and it hasn't helped me at all. So I don't believe anything that comes out. I'm not taking my legal advice from the White House team right now.
I would agree with that 100%. Let's not go far down that road here. Let's go ahead and move on. So I got a couple feel-good Apple Watch stories here. The first one was that an Apple Watch helped a Whole Foods founder give up drinking and says it changed his life. Apple Watch users regularly credit the device for helping them save their life during health scares and emergency situations. The founder of Whole Foods, however, was insight gained from the Apple Watch that helped him improve his life. He basically what happened was it's Whole Foods founder John McKay decided to give up drinking 3 years ago, thanks to in part of the data collected by his Apple Watch. He says, "I wish I would have stopped drinking for 30 years ago. That's 30 years of feeling good to let that pass." And the Apple Watch contributed to that. So through his sleep tracking and with the Apple Watch reflecting on his habits, it determined that he more exercise and fewer larger meals at bed mean better sleep. But the biggest insight was the lack of sleep, according to the Apple Watch. So there you go. I mean, it just the sleep tracking by itself was a factor that helped him realize that, you know what, I better stop and take care of myself. So what do you think, Jeff?
Feel good stories like this, I can't make fun of them because they're helping people improve their lives and in many cases save their lives. Um, and if it took the Whole Foods founder seeing data that was being collected by their Apple Watch to decide, oh yeah, I'm doing this thing that's detrimental to my health, and I can now see ways to live what is for me a better life. Great. I think this fits exactly with Apple's intent for the Apple Watch, and well, and how they see some of their other products being used as well. So great. Um, I'm not going to stop drinking, but then again, I'd consider myself a very casual social drinker,
Sure.
and uh, but yeah, what does my Apple Watch think? Does it think I'm boozing it up too much? Maybe I should find out.
Yeah. What about you, Chuck?
Once again, the Apple Watch can do so much for so many people, and it's just going to do more. So depending on what your issue is, whether it's a little too much alcohol or whether it's something of a more clinical nature, it's a why don't you strap this thing on your arm and let it help you? I think this is just a great example, and the yeah, I just think there's so many great examples of what an Apple Watch can do for you that it becomes more and more of a no-brainer to get one for yourself and get one for your loved ones too.
Yep. And Marty?
Well, Jeff says he's incapable of making fun of good stories. I'm not incapable of making fun of good stories, but I won't here. I mean, this is my area in terms of counseling and understanding behavior change and stuff like that. I have all sorts of questions. What he's talking about is a drinking rate of every time I drank a glass of wine before I went to sleep, my sleep numbers went to zero. I have no idea what's going on with the rest of his drinking patterns, and so it can be a little misleading to think that someone might read this article and go, "Oh, I'll get an Apple Watch and then I'll quit drinking." There's a lot
Yeah,
more
no.
that goes into that
Yeah.
with people who have are problem drinkers, and I didn't get a sense of that from this article. But all power to him. It worked for him. That's great.
And then add on to this another story. Tim Cook, life-saving Apple Watch feature came to the rescue of Tim Cook's dad. While he was talking about eating your own home cooking, while being interviewed on a podcast, Apple's chief executive revealed that the Apple Watch once again saved his dad's life. If you're there's been numerous articles of people who've been with this, of course. Cook said in the past he had received letters of customers whose lives or lives of relatives were spared. Well, it happened to him as well. So what happened was that emergency services came out to find his dad at his home. Besides calling for help, including the location of the Apple Watch owner, the latter's emergency contacts were also notified. So that means Tim was notified, and then they arrived. After being called by his Apple Watch, he didn't respond to the paramedics knocking at doors, so they kicked the door down. And a good thing they did that because he was not conscious at the time.
Wow.
Cook explained that the hosts that the accelerometer in the Apple Watch is used to detect a fall. He explained that his father didn't thank Tim for the fall detection feature on the Apple Watch that saved his life. Instead, he was more upset at the damage to caused the first responders have to kick his door open. and he laughs about the memory, but he says, no, he was focused on the door. To be honest, he was more upset that they kicked out my door. So it also was interesting to see that it seems that he received several notifications during the interview, and he admits that he will probably be turning off the notifications at night because if he's sleeping with the watch. So it happened to Tim Cook too. So I just think every day that this device is worthwhile having on your wrist for sure. You guys can definitely agree with that.
But did his dad stop drinking? That's the important part.
Yeah.
Believe me, I've been on the floor before. I know.
Yeah. Oh, me too. So that's cool that
Yeah.
Tim shared that story, because he says pretty much a private man. So, but I'm glad to see that he even has benefits of Apple's products. So, all right, let's move on to something more fun to hear about. Ted Lasso. We haven't talked about that in quite a while. Season 4 will be announced shortly per an Apple TV Plus star. They of course just debuted the new season of Severance, but the beloved show is in the works for a big return. It hasn't been officially announced yet, but according to one star, it will be very soon. It was Nick Mohammed who played Nate in Ted Lasso, is saying the impending renewal announcement in a video. He mentioned that he had to reschedule dates for his Show Ponies performances because of filming coming up. He cannot move. And then the teasing began in full force. I cannot say what the filming is, but it will be announced shortly. In the meantime, I would really appreciate if people didn't speculate as to what they think it might be. So
Guess I better finish watching season 3.
Yeah, finish Ted Lasso. I'm excited. I love that show. What do you guys think?
It's a great show.
I can go back and watch it again and still enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think that show, people have different likes and different tastes, but frankly, that was the show that I think pulled a lot of people into Apple TV.
It did.
They heard about it, they wanted to see it, and it exposed them to the kinds of products well, not products, but the kinds of entertainment that's available on Apple TV. And from that, they just leaped from one pad to another, finding more stuff. And I think it was not only a good show, but also a good way to connect people to the platform.
And it came out at a great time.
During the pandemic.
Because it was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so it was a very upbeat kind of show in a time that was not very upbeat at all.
No.
And so, I honestly still think it would have done well without that, but I have to wonder if it would have gotten the same kind of attention or hit that note with as many people. But any way you take it, it's a great show.
Yeah.
Yep. So I definitely agree with that. And then moving on to another story. I thought I'd bring this up only because we all love Star Trek. Star Trek Section 31 is going to be out tomorrow as we record this. It's the new film that's going to be on Paramount Plus. It's starring Michelle Yeoh. If you remember, she was in Star Trek Discovery as Captain Giorgio, and it re-energized her career, and she ended up becoming an Oscar winner for a movie she was in too. So I think that this is going to be an exciting little movie. You guys excited about this?
Yes. I'm looking forward to this. Okay, Dave, here's what I'm hoping comes out of this. Because originally they were going to do a Section 31 series, we heard.
Right.
Then it became a movie. So what I'm hoping is that this movie is good and they do a series of Section 31 movies. And
hope so.
I mean, and there's a lot that you can do with this. I mean, the whole Section 31 thing, it's okay. Here's the thing I love about Section 31. It really came into its own as an important thing in Star Trek Enterprise, one of the Star Trek series that a lot of people really don't like. I actually I enjoy all Star Treks, so I enjoyed Enterprise. But anyhow, where am I going with this? I don't know. Yes, I do.
Mhm.
Okay. Where I'm going with this is that what I'm hoping is that in the movie, we do get some Enterprise era references out of this. And that this performs well enough that we get to see more movies and then maybe some more Enterprise era things tied into the movies.
And what do you think, Chuck?
How much time do we have? No, listen, I did not read this article. And interestingly, though, there was another article by another tech outlet that heavily criticized this, and it made that one was the one I saw first. And it made me mad because, darn it, let me make up my own mind. If you didn't like it, that's fine, but don't publish this kind of thing the day before it comes out and trash it. And then when I saw this article, even the title, it's just like, okay, you've got one guy who doesn't like it, one guy who does. I feel like balance has been restored for me to go into it. Um, you know, yeah, I'm with Jeff. I like pretty much all Star Trek. There's some that is, I think, a little better, that resonates with me more than others. But overall, I've been really looking forward to this, and I'm anxious to see it. And like Jeff, I hope it's the start of even more.
Chuck, there's a term that I've seen applied to people that are really into Star Wars, and I think we can apply it to Star Trek fans of a certain ilk as well, even though it's a Star Wars term, and it's the fandom menace. And the problem is you have a lot of these fans of the franchise who have in their mind exactly what it should be, and it's probably based on one movie and some fantasy stuff that they've crafted in their own head. And anything that deviates from that formula is horrible. So seeing a review that says, "Wow, Section 31, that's a real crap fest happening right there." Okay, this is probably, and I haven't read any of these articles, so I don't know, but I would speculate this is probably someone that has an opinion of what Star Trek should be all the time. This doesn't fit that formula, therefore this is bad.
Jeff, what did I say? How much time do we have? I agree
Right?
with you.
We could do a whole series right now.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with everything you said, which in some ways is good because these things are generating that much interest in people. They generate that much of a visceral reaction. And so therefore, you know, they care enough to pay attention to it, which is probably good for any franchise. Even if it's negative feedback, it's probably better than just turning your back on it and saying, I really don't care. And there are plenty of franchises that I feel that way about. So that I don't even bother to watch it because I don't care.
Chuck, here's the biggest problem that I see for Star Trek Section 31. And just hold on, Dave. We've got a show going on here.
I knew what was going to happen with this. That's why I wanted to bring it to the end here.
Hey, guys.
Marty, welcome to our live audience.
Get in there. Get in there, Marty.
Okay, so here's the real potential problem I see for Section 31. If something doesn't play well in the movie and it's just not working because Star Trek Lower Decks has been canceled, we don't have the show out there to fix it now. Like we even got to see references in Lower Decks that could help you feel good about things that you didn't like in shows like Discovery. And I'm not going to elaborate because then I'm getting into spoiler territory. But yeah, the show that can come in and mop up after every other show, Lower Decks, it's not there anymore. So that, to me, that's the biggest potential problem with Section 31.
You want to sneak in here, Marty, and add something?
Yeah, I can't. I am amazed how deep into the wormwood you guys have crawled.
We have
I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah.
We have not.
These two got me hooked on the Star
all.
Trek. I was never into it as much
Yeah.
as these guys are now.
Here's what I think about this. If this was a new series instead of a movie, I would be reluctant to start the series. Now, I'm not a big Star Trek fan. You guys have turned me on to a few things that I really like. This gives me an opportunity to watch it on a movie and make a judgment. Am I going to see the next movie? Am I going to see a series come from this? I think this is also very pragmatic for Michelle Yeoh because she's a big star now. And to commit to a series on, streaming channel may not be as exciting as doing the next film. So doing films or a series of films, and I'm listening to the little course correction voice inside Jeff's head. What was I saying? Oh, I don't know. Yes, that's what I was saying. That I think that allows her to sign on movie to movie and compartmentalize the shooting for 6 weeks, go on to another movie, come back to another movie. I think it's much more when you have a really key star like that. The platform of a series of potential movies coming out is much more attractive, which allows her to go into other fields and play while the movies are in between.
All right. I find that incredibly interesting, and I like where you went with that. And for me, it highlights a thing that I have seen with a lot of people that watch shows or movies in a specific genre, because what you said about uh, Marty, I think it was you that talked about how this really helped Michelle Yeoh's career take off. Um, her career was huge already. And so when she committed to do the series Star Trek Discovery, that in and of itself was a huge thing, because here's this really big star, well known in many movies. You may have heard of little things that she's done, like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, things
Yeah.
like that. Um, and she's like, yes, I am into committing to an entire Star Trek series. And then I love this so much, I'm willing to commit to a series about this one character. Um, I think that says a lot about her expectations for the quality of the content they were producing. And it wouldn't surprise me if she's disappointed that Section 31 was retooled into being a movie as opposed to a series.
Yep. All right.
I'm stopping. I'm dying to get back in, and I'm not going to, Dave.
Oh,
Go.
come on, Chuck. Bring it
No,
on.
no,
Yeah, I
no.
see.
Go ahead,
I
Jack.
was thinking pre-Oscar Michelle Yeoh versus post-Oscar Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah.
All right, that's fair.
Chuck, you have the last word. Go ahead.
I don't know. I don't know that I want the last word, Dave, except to say, that the Star Trek universe is so rich with so many potential stories that I'm afraid, to Jeff's point, sometimes the fandom gets a little bit locked in on, and even worse, the studios and the suits get locked in on, well, if it doesn't have Kirk or Spock or Picard or Worf or any of the other main characters, that, well, then we just can't do it. And that is such a huge mistake, because there are so many stories to be told here, great stories, that and the characters that Michelle Yeoh plays is just complete evidence, the perfect evidence of that.
Excellent. And that's a good way to wrap the show up for this week. What a great show. And I thought that would be a great closer here, because we all love Star Trek, and we consume it on our Apple TV and our iPad, any place else that's media. So it kind of fit a little bit, but that's okay. That's what we wanted to do here, is have some fun, and that's what we do here. But let's go ahead and wrap up. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Mastodon or Blue Sky at In Touch with iOS. Support the show by buying me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We'd really appreciate it. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We would really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you're notified when we're live streaming, which is Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/intouchwithios. We had Webb Bixby, we had Cletus, and many other folks watching. You can be with us live, but you also can go to that link and watch the current and past live streams, as well as listen to past shows. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discuss are flipped into that magazine. The link is in our show notes. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, including Pocket Casts, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, and many others. But better yet, just go to our website, intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are on that website. I am Dave Ginsburg. You can find me on Mastodon and Blue Sky at DaveG65. Chuck Joyner, thank you again for being here. Always a pleasure. Where can people find you?
MacVoices.com is where you can find pretty much everything. We are in the middle, no, not in the middle, we're in the early stages still of releasing the interviews from CES. There's some really great stuff out there already, some more really great stuff coming. So go check those out. Tuesday nights, Mac Voices Live with everybody here as part of the panel at 8 p.m. Eastern. And on all the socials, you can find me as at Chuck Joyner. Dave, as always, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. And Marty Jensius, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Where can people find you?
Thanks thanks for having me here. And also Tuesdays with Chuck Joyner on Mac Voices Live. As I say before the show, Thursdays are my happy days because it's sort of the end of the work week and a smaller group of friends getting to chat. You can find me at Jensius, Jencius at Blue Sky. That's probably the only social network I'm checking regularly at this point in my life. But you can find other things that I do at thepodtalk.net, including Vision Profiles on Monday nights and the Old Mac Gang on Wednesday nights. So check it out, thepodtalk.net.
There you go. And last but certainly not least, Jeff Gamet, thank you for being here. Where can people find you?
Thank you for letting me continue to be part of this this Thursday night celebration party. Yeah, it's great. All right, so where can people find me? Social media, Jay Gamet everywhere. I'm posting on Mastodon, and I'm transitioning away from Instagram into PixelFed. But any of the social medias that you go to, I probably have Jay Gamet. I'm just not watching all of them. And then for shows, there's a couple like Chuck's Mac Voices Live on Tuesdays, Here With You on Thursdays for In Touch with iOS, on the British Tech Network, The Big Show and The Mac Show. Brian Chaffin and I do The Context Machine, and then Patrice Brendamore and I do Retro Rewatch. I think that's all my shows.
It is. Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We appreciate you being here. We enjoy doing the show, and we'll do it again next week. But until then, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk again soon. Well done. Well done. Thank you.
All right, I have another thing to say about the whole Star Trek thing.
Go for it.
Of course you do.
Of course I do. It's the big names that are willing to commit to a series of Star Trek. I mean, it's not ending because we have the Starfleet Academy series that I think they finished filming season 1 already. Holly Hunter, Paul Giamatti,
Wow.
Tatiana, how do you say her last name? Maslany? Is that right?
Sounds right. Close enough.
Yeah, and I saw I read an interview a while ago where Paul Giamatti was being interviewed, and apparently he had been offered a part. So they're like, "Oh man, wouldn't it be cool to have Paul Giamatti in on this?" And Paul said, "No, I don't want that. I want to be the season's antagonist." And they're like, okay, you are now the season antagonist, because it would have been like an episode that he was on.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. I want to do this. And so when Paul Giamatti says, yeah, I want to be the big antagonist, what do you say? You say yes, and then figure out how to pay him later.
Yeah, I will go and watch anything anywhere that Nurse Chapel is. That's my deciding factor.
Which Nurse Chapel?
The one on Strange New Worlds.
Okay, that's what I thought. you meant.
Jess, I
Yeah,
forgot her last name.
yeah, I watched some of those outtake or not outtake videos, sort of the ones that the one past Star Trek guy did the interviews with the cast on that, and
Will Wheaton.
Will
Will
Wheaton, and the conversations. There is a real reverence that the actors have for the material and how good the material is. They're
Mhm.
like, the material is so good here. It's not, it goes beyond it goes beyond just acting. It's like these are stories that as a character actor I can get into. So
When you think about the number of celebrities and not just Hollywood celebrities that have made appearances on Star Trek because they wanted to. I mean, some were
Mhm.
invited, but a lot of them lobbied to get on. I mean, recently, Stacey Abrams, was on was in Discovery. Is the one that jumps to mind, right? The most recent one that jumps to mind. But there's so many others that they want to be part of this franchise.
Mhm.
So, I have a lot of respect for Star Wars, but it just doesn't have the same vibe.
and I think Disney is bleeding that dry. There's so much rolling out that are extensions of Star Wars that I don't know. It seems unsustainable. And do I really want to know about the second cousin's third removed, you know, storyline?
When they do good storylines, it's they're so good that it doesn't have to be Star Wars. It just happens to be Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like Andor. That I think is hands down some of the best Star Wars you can possibly see. And there's not a single lightsaber. There's no Jedi. I don't even think they reference the Force through the entire series, and it is just fracking amazing.
And that's where I think Star Trek, it's done a little better job. I mean, and I'd like more Star Trek, but it we need to do what they did with the Next Generation. There was the occasional reference to the original series,
Mhm.
and the farther out you get, there are less and less of those references. But we've had new crews, we've had new things. Star Wars just, I don't know, it just never it never seems to have the connection to some of the previous things without just being completely inundated by the previous things. I hope that makes sense. It did to me
It
in my
does.
head. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think Andor is the best at being Star Wars without being Star Wars, if you will.
Yeah.
And if you want to watch a fun Star Wars series that doesn't have to be Star Wars, Skeleton Crew.
Yep. I have not had a chance to watch that yet.
It's absolutely delightful.
Okay. That's on my list too, but I just haven't gotten to it yet. I just
I think I
finished
might-
Silo.